you want to automate but don't have time to develop the skill set? Try our Easy Motion hardware and software bundle. It's like T-slot extrusions or automation programming. The functional elements are already built for you. All you need to do is connect them together to create fast, easy, and endlessly customizable motion solutions. Learn more at teampipeline.us. Hello and welcome to the Being an Engineer podcast. Today's guest is Carrie Hurlbut, the Director of Global Environmental Health and Safety and Corporate Responsibility at ASM. With over 15 years in EHS roles, Carrie has led initiatives that bring engineering with sustainability and workplace safety on a global scale. Her journey from studying biological sciences and environmental engineering to driving strategic EHS programs uniquely positions her to share valuable insights on aligning corporate responsibility with innovation, fostering inclusive leadership, and navigating the complexities of the semiconductor industry. Carrie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So what made you decide to become an engineer?
Well, I come from a family of engineers, for one, but I always had just maybe a really strong affinity for the sciences growing up. Always my favorite classes in school, and that's kind of what led me to pursue a degree in biological sciences at Clemson. Just taking classes that I had a real interest in without, kind of a strong career goal in mind. This decision to then pursue an engineering degree was really to take my education to the next level, be able to use my science background and engineering to solve problems and really grow in my career. I definitely think that it did open, a bunch of additional doors for me.
Yeah, awesome. As a kid, were you one that was building with Legos and like putting forts together and taking apart bicycles, or, the typical pre-engineering childhood?
Yeah, absolutely. I have two brothers that are mechanical engineers, my dad, my uncle. So yeah, that was kind of exactly how it went.
So you're in EHS now, or an environmental health and safety. Tell us a little bit about what that is. I don't know that we've had that role on the podcast before, and I feel like I could, loosely define what that means. But I don't know that I've ever even talked with someone that's their dedicated role so far. So help us understand, what is that role? Like, what does EHS mean, and what are some of the day-to-day activities and overall objectives of that role?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I knew what EHS was in college, certainly not in high school. But it stands for Environment, Health, and Safety. And it's really a multidisciplinary field that focuses on protecting the environment and human health in workplace settings. So basically what we do is we develop and implement programs that are designed to minimize or eliminate risks. Really, the primary objective is to eliminate, injuries, fatalities, illnesses, environmental harm, of course, and property damage.
And do you find that most of your time is spent on the E, the H, or the S, or is it kind of an even mix across all three?
Yeah, that's a great question. It just depends. Every single day is completely different. I really don't know what's going to happen day to day, but it's definitely more on the E, the H, and the S these days, because as ASM's grown, we've also kind of expanded our team, and there's kind of a dedicated global environmental team now. Now, we still support that team at each of our sites, but as we've grown, we've kind of split a little bit and much more focus on the health and safety for me and my team.
Cool. Very cool. ASM, can you talk a little bit about who ASM is and what you do in the industry, just briefly?
Yeah. ASM supplies wafer processing equipment to the leading semiconductor manufacturers. Most of it is for the deposition of what we call thin films. So we design, manufacture, sell, and service these tools to supply our customers with the advanced technologies to produce semiconductor devices. So we're a global company. We have over 4,500 employees located in 16 countries, 65 nationalities. We have 7 R&D centers, and we've just been experiencing crazy growth. We've added over 2,000 employees over the past 2 years. So pretty exciting time to be in this industry.
Yeah. Wow. What a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Growing so fast. What is it like? I know you're not doing the engineering per se, but maybe you can speak just briefly to what the engineering is like in the semiconductor industry. And since you're obviously most familiar with ASM,
Yeah.
What's the day in the life of a ASM engineer like?
Well, at an R&D center, it's very diverse, right? We not only engineer and innovate with our tools, but we also do the same with our processes. So we have process engineering teams that are trying to develop and create those newest thin films. And then we also have hardware engineering teams that are trying to innovate our tool sets, again, to develop the kind of the latest and the greatest. At the R&D centers, we interact with all these engineers each and every day as we try to make sure that what we're doing, we can do it in a safe manner and also protect the environment at the same time.
When it comes to environment, health, and safety, what are some of the major risks that you work towards mitigating each day?
Yeah, so inherently the tools use chemistries, and a lot of the chemistries that they use to deposit these films are highly reactive. They may be pyrophoric. Those are the chemistries that we're working with to deposit those films. And then the process is only so effective or efficient. So we're always trying to minimize the amount of environmental impact as well. So there's the safety aspect just that's inherent with the materials that we're using. And then there's the environmental impact in that the processes aren't 100% efficient. So there's always this excess of material that we need to safely discharge.
What are some of the solutions that you use for discharging the excess chemistries these days?
Yeah, so there's kind of a wide variety of what we call abatement devices. They use either a burn, so sometimes we burn natural gas and then burn the excess emissions, or they use kind of a burn wet scrub. So we burn and then we kind of rinse the excess process through water. And then there's like wet burn wet. So there's got like a kind of a whole host of different styles of abatement. There's also kind of a dry absorbent that can be used to absorb, the excess emissions. There's all sorts of technologies and we use them all, to be honest. We try to use what's the best for what we are, what we are discharging.
Going back to the explosive growth. I shouldn't use that word explosive.
Yeah, no, not in the semiconductor industry. No.
Exponential growth that ASM has experienced recently. What do you think accounts for that? I know there's been this whole chip shortage, starting with COVID. I think I heard there were some factories that burned down, and that's really where a lot of the chip shortage came from, not just supply chains being interrupted by COVID. And then we've got AI that is just taking off right now.
That's a huge factor.
Is that a big one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All those are big. Just the technology, just the advancing technology needs more and more chips. More and more more and more chips are just needed for the advancing technology.
Okay. So it's less to do with, the COVID supply chain interruption, which probably has largely corrected itself at this point, and more to do with just emerging technology, AI requiring
Exactly.
more chips. So this is not a quote unquote problem that's going to go away
No,
anytime
not at
soon.
all. Not at all. And that's why I think we're investing so much money in the U.S., in the semiconductor industry and growing it here.
Yeah. Okay, great. So one of the things that you've worked on is data analytics and implementing that into an enterprise system. How has this been leveraged for better EHS outcomes?
Yeah, this is still, very much a work in progress for us. For about, I'd say, at least 12 years now, we've been gathering data from our entire workforce on what we call incidents. So proactive or reactive incidents or observations. So we've asked that any employee who identifies or is exposed to any safety or environmental event, report the details of this incident into our enterprise system, which we call Shield. And then we use the system, of course, to to follow up on these events and implement corrective actions and root cause. But what we've amassed is just a ton of data of when accidents or near misses occur. Like not only when, but like where they occur, who's involved. And we've always been able to kind of use this data to identify trends. But now we really want to take it to the next level, like, use some predictive analytics to pick up on the trends that we don't see, right? And try to identify proactively, like what might happen yet, and really use this data to, obviously attack our problem areas and of course, like stop something from happening, almost like Minority Report type things. But we really want to move more from reactive safety, which is kind of how it works with the collection of this data, right? We're collecting data on accidents and near misses that have occurred, and we really want to move to that proactive approach.
Do you find that it's challenging to get employees to report these incidents?
So it's really kind of a constant drumbeat of encouraging reporting, encouraging leaders and managers to support when things are reported. So it's definitely something that we are constantly reinforcing and working on. And I think, when we can show what we're using this data for and how we might be able to prevent things from happening, hopefully that'll be even more supportive of why we report.
I imagine on occasion there might be employees who feel like being compliant with some of the rules and regulations that are put in place for EHS might feel like a burden or like it's encroaching on their productivity. Is that ever an issue that you need to deal with? And if so, how do you handle those situations?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. And with that, that expectation we have of just growing like crazy over the next few years, we want to be really careful with that because we want employees to join an organization that has a safety culture and a safety mindset. So right off the bat, when they start as a new employee, they feel supported and they feel, that safety is important. So to do that, we're really trying to foster their safety culture. It's like our top priority. Of course, that really starts with visible executive leadership. But we also encourage safety leadership at every level. We want every single person to model and prioritize safe behavior. And really try to integrate integrate it into the DNA of our employees. And again, so when new employees start, they just feel it, right? Like, this is a safe company. This is how we behave, not kind of learn bad behaviors. If that's probably not the right word, but so we really have, this year especially, we've really been prioritizing safety engagement. So lots of communications, lots of training, lots of continuous education programs, where we really kind of reinforce that safety regulations are not a barrier to productivity, but actually a way to ensure like long-term operational efficiency. So it's definitely always a struggle, but that's kind of our mindset and our goal, especially with all these new people coming on board.
Yeah. With the growth that you're seeing and that you expect to continue seeing, how do you think that EHS is going to change over the next 5 to 10 years, if at all? Maybe it's just, keep doing the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Over the next 5 to 10 years, we will have to, of course, kind of morph along with the organization. But I do see us getting more involved in sustainability activities. It's just kind of a huge, I don't want to say it's a big buzzword, but a lot of the semiconductor manufacturers, as well as equipment manufacturers, have very like accelerated sustainability initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, ASM is pledged to meet a target of net zero emissions by 2035. And a lot of our peers have done similar. A lot of our customers have also done this. So super aggressive GHG emission reduction goals. So that means for my team, I think that we'll not only have to support these initiatives to reduce the emissions at our own sites, but we also have to support, all the research and development activities for our product, to help our customers also reach their targets.
Got it. Okay, great. Well, let me take just a short break here and share with the listeners that the Being an Engineer podcast is brought to you by Pipeline Design and Engineering, where we don't design pipelines, but we do help companies develop advanced manufacturing processes, automated machines, and custom fixtures, complemented with product design and R&D services. Learn more at teampipeline.us. The podcast is also sponsored by The Wave, an online platform of free tools, education, and community for engineers. Learn more at thewave.engineer. We're speaking with Carrie Hurlbut today. Carrie, this next question here, this might be a little bit of a challenging question to answer. I don't know. We'll see. And it's open to some interpretation even. But the question is, can you think of or share an instance where you had to balance practicality with creativity in an EHS project? And like, what did that look like? What did you learn from the experience?
Honestly, I feel like we get creative every day.
Okay.
Working in a really fast-paced research and development environment is definitely challenging and definitely have to get creative because we're often testing new innovations, new hardware, before maybe a fully vetted solution or procedure is really ready or in place. So this is kind of, this projects like these is where I think, ASM really excels at collaboration. So I guess kind of what it looks like would be, a process team, brainstorming with facilities, with equipment engineering, with hardware engineering, with product safety, with EHS, to find that kind of creative path forward where we can accomplish the goal, the testing, whatever it may be, safely. again, it's not going to be that perfect solution that we would offer to a customer, but it's a test that we're going to do in our lab. So like most often, what it would be would be writing, like writing out each step that we're going to do. We call it a pre-task plan. I'm sure others call it something different, but we literally write step by step what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, who's going to do it, what the risks are. And then we identify what measures we're going to take to minimize that risk. So it definitely takes some creativity a lot of times.
When you say that, it seems almost deceptively simple, right? I'm just going to write out every step that we're going to take, and I'm going to write down who's involved, right? But I bet that's so powerful, even as a preliminary tool in starting your risk assessment and risk mitigation.
Yeah, absolutely. And like sometimes these pre-task plans actually end up becoming perhaps, not the start of the real procedure, of the real thing. It's deceptively simple, but and there's lots of eyes on it, with everybody maybe like taking like maybe just a little bit different look at it. And sometimes just that's what we need, right? Because sometimes with EHS, maybe we become a little bit too hyper focused on doing it one way, this way. But someone's like, well, how about we try, and then we do this, and it's actually kind of a fun process, especially when we succeed.
Yeah, right. Everyone like that. I imagine there are some engineers listening to this right now who are thinking, EHS, I've never really thought about that before, but that sounds kind of cool. Like keeping people safe, I could feel fulfilled doing that. What does the career path development look like for an engineer who might like to move into that field?
Yeah, it definitely is rewarding. There's definitely a satisfaction of doing your part to protect the environment, and making sure your workforce goes home each night to their families, right? You can definitely find that rewarding piece. My path was probably a little bit different than everybody else's path. There are degree programs where you can get a degree in environmental health and safety. I don't know that those existed back, when I graduated from high school, but you can go that very direct route. Also, I know a lot of people that have engineering degrees, maybe chemical engineering or electrical engineering, and have decided that they want to change careers and make that swap. And I think if you're considering making a change to EHS, and maybe you're already working somewhere, I would suggest just like reaching out to your local team, your local EHS team. They're always looking for advocates, right? They're always looking for people to lead a safety initiative or be a leader for their area. So I think that's a great path to take if you're thinking about it. Maybe just see if you can work with the team, see what you think, get some experience. I know the EHS team is always grateful for this type of support, and I think it's valuable experience.
Yeah. How about mentors? Did you have any mentors coming up in this role, and like what? How influential? How important was that?
When I reflect back on my career, and I did a lot, kind of thinking about this podcast, I feel like super incredibly fortunate. I had my first internship after I had already graduated from Clemson. I was at the University of Maryland. I was pursuing a bioengineering degree. And I got an internship with the Environmental Resources Department at Northrop Grumman. They're a big defense contractor, and this was in Baltimore. And I joined this amazing team of environmental engineers. And I think that's when I first realized that this could be my career. I don't think I'd ever heard of EHS. And being hired into that team, I just feel so fortunate. And that summer internship actually extended into a part-time position when I went back to school in the fall. And then the following semester, my manager at the time, Jay Tolley, he convinced me to take a full-time position at Northrop Grumman and have them start paying for my degree. At that point, I was working part-time. I was taking out student loans. And he said, why don't you come to work for Northrop Grumman full-time, transfer to a night school program at Johns Hopkins, and we'll start paying for your tuition, and you'll get paid a salary.
That sounds pretty
and I was
good.
hesitant, which is funny, right? Like I was like, what? I don't know. And he's like, trust me, like this is the smart move here. And he had to actually convince me of that. And that's where also at Northrop Grumman, I was assigned as the environmental engineer at their Advanced Technologies Laboratory, which is a small semiconductor foundry that's also in Baltimore. And I gathered such great experience. I completed my degree at night. And I'm just forever grateful for, that team and then, the opportunity, convincing me to take the opportunity, that I can't say enough. And then still, when I was still at Northrop Grumman, maybe, about 7 years later, still in Baltimore, another Northrop Grumman employee for a different division gave me an opportunity to move from being an environmental engineer to becoming an EHS manager at their night vision site in Tempe, Arizona. And again, I'm moving from an engineer to a manager position. I was hesitant, I wasn't sure, but this gentleman, Kevin, assured me that this was a good move. I won't let you fail. And that's kind of how I managed to go from, an environmental engineer to EHS. And again, like forever grateful for Northrop Grumman and that team, for showing me a career path, and then helping me to make, the right decisions.
Yeah.
And always supporting me on the journey. I still talk to them to this day. And that's, 19 years ago now or something. I guess, I think you said in the beginning, had 15 years of experience. I think it's more like 20 almost, but, the mentors were everything.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, how important it is to have good mentors that help you make decisions that maybe you don't see yourself at the time.
I didn't. I really didn't. I had some sort of strange loyalty to the University of Maryland. I'm sure they did not care whether I left their program or not, right? But I reflect on that a lot, and I'm very thankful.
Yeah, how interesting these at the time might seem like small events change the course of our lives, of our careers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, looking back, reflecting at the past 15, 20 years of your career, especially in EHS, what's one of the most memorable or rewarding experiences that you have had in that EHS environment?
One of I would say my favorite projects, that did involve some engineering, was it was at the Phoenix site, and was completed as a partnership with our facilities team, and she's now the director of facilities at the Phoenix site, but Yumi Taylor. Because our site is an R&D campus, much of that time, that water isn't even seeing any process. It's just flowing into the scrubber and down the drain, right? So we put in a water reclamation system, and it reduced water usage at the site by over 60%.
Wow.
And
That's
at that
huge.
time, at that time, it achieved a 30% reduction in ASM's global water use. So we reduced it 60% in Phoenix. And so it was just a huge win, right?
That is amazing.
And
Yeah, what a
that
great
was fun.
story.
That was fun. Yeah. Yeah. And now
Uh,
she and I are working on a new site in Scottsdale. And we're already talking about the water reclamation system there, and we're hoping to up our game, get at least 80% efficiency. So, that was kind of like a fun one. I remember, high fives, whatever, when that one went online.
wow, that's incredible. What an amazing feeling that must have been. What advice would you give to engineers who are considering either a career in EHS or a career change to EHS?
I would say try to find an internship. Gain some job experience. I think that's huge. Obviously, that was a real game changer for me. It is definitely a challenging but rewarding career. Not a single day is the same. But as I said earlier, it really does give you an opportunity to make a difference. So if that's what you're looking for, and I think we all are, I would definitely recommend it. But I guess the best advice I can give you is to try to get some experience. I think that will help when you go to the job market. Always looking for new hires, but new hires with some experience. So, and that could be an internship, and that could be, perhaps you working on just projects at your site, even though it's not your primary role. But I think that the job experience is really important.
What type of person, or for people with what type of characteristics or behaviors or preferences would you not recommend moving into EHS?
I think you have to be a team player. I mentioned a couple, the example where we get creative, and you can see that it's like we're working with a very diverse team with the same goal. You have to be able to be a team player. It's not really for the lone wolf, I would say. It's also important to be able to try to get out and meet people, touch people, talk to people, be willing to listen when they bring a concern to you. So if you are someone that might not like to have that social interaction with people, maybe not the right position, because it's really important that you're approachable, I think, in my mind, that people will come to you. You had mentioned, you don't want people hiding things. You want them to bring them forward, that they're worried, that they're concerned that this is happening or they're struggling. So I think it's really important to kind of have that sort of a personality, as well as being a team player, because you really, there was a time where I felt like I knew every single person at our site. And I loved that. And I thought that was very important. Now that we've gotten a lot bigger, I don't know that that's possible. But I do think that it's an important piece of the job.
That's great. Very actionable advice. Okay. Well, Carrie, I think we'll wrap things up now. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you think we should talk about before ending this episode?
Not that I can think of. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. It's been fun. Love to share my career journey. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, they are more than welcome to do that.
Great. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
I think the best is probably just to message me on LinkedIn.
Okay. So not going to give out home addresses this time.
Not today.
Maybe on your return trip to the show. Okay. All right. Well, Carrie, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your career journey and some insights into the marvelous world of EHS.
Thank you.
I'm Aaron Moncur, founder of Pipeline Design and Engineering. If you liked what you heard today, please share the episode. To learn how your team can leverage our team's expertise developing advanced manufacturing processes, automated machines, and custom fixtures, complemented with product design and R&D services, visit us at teampipeline.us. To join a vibrant community of engineers online, visit thewave.engineer. Thank you for listening.